Life can feel heavy. Things can feel uncertain. And during these times, I believe that it becomes more important to find pockets of celebration, moments of gratitude, and pauses to take a breath and just be. My guest today knows all about these things. She and I joined forces last year to collaborate on something now known as Thrive Thursday. Today, my guest, Tricia Livermore, and I share with you the origin of Thrive Thursday, why it's important, what it looks like, and how you can invite and create more of this in your own everyday life. Tricia is also a heart-centered intuitive coach and HeartMath mentor. Her mission is to help people find peace and harmony within themselves by connecting with their heart. Tricia walks her talk, and if you need some calm in your life today, get ready to meet Tricia. Enjoy her calming presence, and may it remind you to pause, take a breath, and a moment of celebration today and every day. I'm Carla Reeves, and this is Differently, a podcast where we explore the ins and outs of what becomes possible when we're willing to think, do, and show up differently to the moments of our everyday lives. Hey, Tricia, welcome to Differently.
Hey, Carla, it's great to be here today.
I'm so excited you're here. And for everybody listening, Tricia and I have tried to do this a number of times over the last few months, and technology or life has not worked in our favor. And we're so excited that everything seems to be aligned at the moment. So we're going with it.
Yes, and that's the thing, right? It's at the present moment, it seems to be working great. So
that's right.
Divine timing.
Yes. So Tricia, for people listening, we'll talk about how we met, but just give us a sense of who you are and what you do in the world and all that good stuff.
Yeah, thanks, Carla. I'm really passionate about helping women quiet their inner judge and finding their authentic voice. I've tried a few different labels: heart-centered transformation coach, emotional transformation coach, and honestly, I just want to help women quiet the inner judge so that they can find that inner voice, because it took me so long to do that, and now I finally have all the tools necessary to help me there, and I just want to help others get there as well.
That's so good. I can totally relate to that journey, because for me too, it was doing the work in my own life that led to wanting to just pay forward the tools and resources so that I could help minimize other people's struggle and suffering and walk the journey together, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So Tricia and I met in ShiftCo. I think you guys have heard me talk about ShiftCo before, but it's an online, I guess it's not necessarily, it is online, but eventually it'll be in person too. But it's a community of conscious business owners, and there's training and community. And anything else that you would add to that, Tricia?
Yeah, it's I always describe it as a small business growth community for conscious entrepreneurs, and it's just a really great way to connect with others and grow your business while doing something that impactful for the world.
Yeah. And so when did you join?
May in 2020.
Okay.
How about you?
So I think I joined in March. I was thinking you joined before I did, but Tricia and I both joined, and I joined to really, well, it was, the world had shut down and I needed a place to connect with other entrepreneurs and not feel so isolated, and the training for my business and to help grow my business, and all of that was really, really important. And I don't remember exactly where we first connected or met or...
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because I don't recall the exact moment. It might have just been in a happy hour that we connected. And you know what it was? Because we were one of three in Phoenix. So we were part of the hub for Phoenix. That's what it was.
And we were going to create a local group, and then that never happened. And then you had the idea of starting a happy hour. So Shifco has happy hours for the members, which are just sort of casual, informal ways to gather and meet and over different kinds of topics, whether it be prosperity or fun or wellness, and Tricia had the great idea of creating this Thrive Thursday, she called it, and she invited me to be a part of that. And I was all about that because it was all around the concept of what you focus on grows. And Tricia, you share, please share your inspiration of where that came for you.
Yeah, ShiftGo had a few different happy hours that I really enjoyed, like Mindful Monday, where you really just stay in the present moment, and Wisdom Wednesday, where you just really kind of have a lot of faith and trust. And one of the things that I knew within myself that I struggled with is, how do I celebrate the small stuff? So, it's always fun to celebrate the big stuff, but one of the things is, I'd always beat myself up over, the little things that really didn't matter. And I thought, gosh, what a way if we could create a happy hour where we just celebrate the big steps and the little steps. And I was really conscious about who I wanted to bring in to kind of co-facilitate that conversation. And Carla, you were like the first person that came to mind on that. And so I reached out, and I think you're the one that created that what you focus on grows, which was such a great way to think about Thrive Thursday, because that's exactly what you do, is what you do focus on grows. And all those little steps really add up to something bigger. I also did some research around the neuroscience of it. And when you celebrate with others, it really creates that hit of dopamine and serotonin, and it's that feel-good chemical. And it's funny, and I think we could both relate to this, that after our hour of Thrive Thursday, I am just on a high because I'm so happy and energized by celebrating with everybody else and their wins. It's been amazing.
It's so true. I mean, you can show up, and I've seen it, and I'm sure you have too, like even witnessed it in other people. Like you might show up to Thrive Thursday, not really thriving, but by the end of the hour, people are like energy. You can feel and see the energy. And I've experienced that myself too. Just, yeah, it kind of creates a lot of fuel and energy for the rest of your day. And the concept of what you focus on grows in celebration, a lot of times too, for me, there's not always a place to celebrate in your life, especially as an entrepreneur. Like I've got a lot of people in my life, but maybe they don't understand like the entrepreneur thing or like the working for yourself thing. And there's like something business related that I want to celebrate, and you just don't have a circle to go do that in. And that's what I love about Thrive Thursday too, whether it's business related or life related, just a little pocket in your day or in your week that you can show up and like there's permission to really celebrate something. And like you said, whether it be super tiny or something big, it's just a circle where you get to celebrate.
Yeah. And, what comes to my mind is having that support system where you're in it together, right? So I think what I really love about Thrive Thursday is we're all in ShiftGo together. We're going through these different pathways. We understand the language. We understand all of the things that we're doing, and we're growing a business. So to your point, not all of our friends or family are going to relate or understand what we're going through. And having that support system has made such a huge impact to my personal growth and my business growth, of just, having somebody hear and see you and celebrate with you of the little things that you're doing in your business. So I think it's just so important to have that kind of community, whatever that looks like for anybody, to actively and intentionally look for that, so that you feel supported no matter what you're doing.
Yeah. And this isn't like a commercial for Shiftco and Thrive Thursday and happy hours, but Tricia and I really wanted to gather, and we encourage you to check out all of those things. But we really wanted to gather in the spirit of this idea of just inviting more celebration into your life. And whether you're a part of SHIFCO or another community, you could do, like, as Tricia was talking, I was thinking, like, what if we did that in our homes once a week, just gathered and just celebrated little and big things. And I know for me, like, even getting ready for that call or anticipating the call in the week, sometimes I'm thinking like, oh, what am I going to share today? Or what, I'm like taking an inventory of things that I want to share. Or sometimes I just show up on the call and then just kind of trust that the thing I share will come to me. And sometimes I'm kind of surprised in those moments, like what comes out that I want to share. It's not necessarily what I would have expected, or it might be something personal, or I don't know. How is that for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, going back to my intention of why I created it is I didn't spend a lot of time thinking about what I had accomplished, but what wasn't going well. And so it's really shifted my mind into what has gone well? What have I completed? What have I actively pursued? What is shifting? And what are the things that are showing up in my life? So really thinking about that, and just like you, there I would fret a little bit, like 5 minutes before. Oh, what do I have to share today? But also, just like you, I could show up and just whatever flows happens, and things would pop into my head that, oh wow, I do have this other thing that I hadn't considered, based on what somebody else might have said. And I think if we can just do that more with each other, whether you're in a support group or not, with your friends or your family, of asking them, what was good today? What did you celebrate? What are the things that are going right for you today? So that we can get on that train of celebrating those little things with each other.
Yeah. And the other component of what's happened inside of the group, and I think it was part of the original intention when we all gathered to kind of create the group, was this piece of acknowledgement. But when when we show up to the meeting and we kind of pass the baton around, like who has something they want to celebrate, and while somebody is celebrating, we're all like actively really just listening. So I don't find that people are like in their head thinking about what they're going to say next. I really feel like people are really listening. And then usually there's something to acknowledge about what somebody shared. And I think that's just a gift that we can transfer into all areas of our life. Like I think that I like crave to be seen and heard and understood. And I like, that's one of the things that lights me up the most about the space that we get to create, is really that listening and seeing people. And then there's usually like some great like conversation that comes out of even that, right? Like it always takes a path that we have no idea it's going to take. And it always feels like that's just how it was supposed to be.
Yeah, it is funny how many times ideas would be promoted through that. Somebody would be talking about something, and then somebody else would share an idea. I think it was, it's just a variety of things that come out of those calls. It's just organic, right? And having that support and supporting each other, I think that's what we're missing, right? In the world today, is how do we really support each other? How do we celebrate one another? How do we create space to just acknowledge each other? Not just to talk about ourselves, but to talk about ourselves in a way that you gain momentum, and it creates an energy of collaboration and collectiveness, right? That we're all in this together. So that's the spirit and energy that I always get out of those calls.
Yeah. Has this like, where else in your life do you, because I think, you said the inspiration behind this was kind of came from a lack of celebration, right? Which I talked to a lot of people, and myself included, that, sometimes in my coaching, there might be a prompt or a question somebody's answering. And then on one of the worksheets I give my clients, it says like, how will you celebrate this, or something, I'm sure you've seen that too before. And it's, people struggle so much with that question. And I have struggled with that too. And so I'm curious for you, like, how do you celebrate in your life? And has Thrive Thursday been a contribution to that at all?
Yeah, that's a great question, Carla. As I reflect back on how I would celebrate prior to the call is, oh, I'm going to have a piece of chocolate. I'm going to have a glass of wine. I'm going to go take a bath. I'm going to go do something or have an experience. And now my mindset is, I'm just going to pat myself on the back. I'm going to feel good about what I've done. I'm going to celebrate that I'm moving forward. So it's more, to your point, like a mindset shift, that we don't need anything extravagant. We don't need to go do anything. We can just feel good about what we're accomplishing, and keeping that vision of where we're going, and keeping track of the things that along the way and where our path is leading us and has led us. I think the other piece about celebrating is celebrating mistakes. Nobody does that, right? Like, you don't celebrate the mistakes. Oh, you screwed up, woohoo! But if you don't celebrate those screw ups, whatever those mistakes are, then you're not going to learn from them. You're not going to have, more humor and clarity around them. So for me, it's just been a complete mindset shift in just the way I think and feel about how I celebrate.
That's so good. There's like three things I want to dive into. One is that that celebration doesn't have to be like doing something for yourself, like getting a massage or buying yourself an outfit or like any of that stuff. Like sometimes that doesn't ever feel like, I would try to force that and it doesn't feel meaningful. And maybe sometimes it does, right? But
Mm-hmm.
that we don't have to force celebration, which sounds crazy.
Right.
Yes. But I like what you're saying, because it is a mindset, and it's almost like just being present to what is happening. So like in my past, as a hyper achiever, I would just move on to the next thing, instead of really just taking a moment to pause and acknowledge the milestone that you just hit, instead of just rushing past it or discounting it or dismissing it or any of that. So I think it is a mindset.
Yeah, I had a client who just loved tasks lists, right? Like a to-do list. And she would just, cross it off and move to the next one. And by the end of the day, she was just drained, crossing off everything. And I said, well, what if you celebrated, instead of crossing it off, put a smiley face or a star or a heart or some emotion of how that made you feel after you completed that task? And she came back to me a week, or I think it was a week or 2 weeks later. And she's like, oh my gosh, that was so amazing. I feel so different after every time I do a task now. And I followed, and like a few months later, she was still doing that. It totally had shifted her mindset of appreciating that she spent the time doing that thing, and then was more present in, what do I want to do next? Do I want to do that thing, or is there something else more pressing that I really want to be doing? So it gave her that sense of presence, like you talked about, and appreciating what she had put into it.
Oh, I like that. It's like little emojis next to your to-do list when you get them
Exactly.
done.
Uh-huh.
I like that. And I bet there's some neuroscience about like attaching that emotion that makes you want to do it again, right?
Yeah, because you get that dopamine hit, even if it's just a little bit, you're getting that little dopamine hit of, it feels good to have this accomplishment instead of the drain of, I got to move on to the next one, right? You can feel that energy difference in your body when you just even visualize that.
I'm going to try that tomorrow. And the other thing I wanted to reflect what you said was the celebrating the mistakes, because I remember that call that you came on and you invited us to celebrate a failure for the week. And I think that's so important too, because so often there's a gift or a lesson or something so vital and important from the failure, but we tend to, kind of want to push those aside or pretend they didn't happen or not share them. And I think that was just so refreshing to share failures and see how they led to something, often really cool.
Yeah. And, solo entrepreneurship is not easy, right? So you have failures all the time because you try something and it doesn't work, or you don't get a response on something. And so you have to consider, what do I need to do differently? What is it that I want to do differently? And so considering those moments of, you can think of it as a failure, but what are we gaining from it? What's the gift in it, like you said, so that we can take that and move that forward. I love that, Carla.
So good. So in the spirit of two things, I think us talking about this is kind of timely as we're approaching like the end of October and the end of the year, and such a good time to like think about reflecting back on this year and like, what are the highlights? What are the celebrations? And also, what is there yet to happen in the next couple months? And what do we want to create over the next couple months so that we can celebrate those at the end of the year? And I don't know, I would be curious, any thoughts you have about that?
You mean for myself, like my celebrations for the year?
Yeah, and how you navigate the end of the year in regard to celebration and reflection.
Yeah, it's the beginning of this year. Well, maybe I should start last year when I started business coaching after I left corporate America and came on as a member within ShiftCo. Terry asked me to become a business coach, and also became a business mentor within the community. And I love it. I absolutely love it. But it also gave me the opportunity to shift my business, which is called Soul Business Advisor. It's think of heart and soul. So that I could really lean into my transformational journey and help others. So when I look back at from the beginning of this year of just doing business coaching, and now I'm supporting people in a new and different way, and creating space that I never did before. It was harder to do it in corporate America, and really, really being seen and seeing others, right? Giving them the space to be seen and to be heard and to celebrate. So when I look back now, this is like literally just off the top of my head. I've come a long way in where my business is going. I've pivoted my business and I'm creating different programs, and new and different opportunities are presenting themselves. I'm connecting with a completely different set of people, and new and different people are coming into my life that are making a huge difference. I'm finding more of my tribe, so to speak, and it just keeps expanding, and I love it. And so, looking at this and at the end of this year, it's just a really great way to reflect and look and see, where was I back in January, and what are all the fantastic opportunities and gifts that have come across, and where have I pushed myself out of my comfort zone to learn new things, which have been a lot this year. So thank you for that question. That was amazing. And then I have to turn it back on you too.
To what? What do you want to know?
Yeah, kind of like, what about you? And in the sense that what are the big or small wins for you for this year? And how do you celebrate by the end of this year?
Yeah. So I mean, usually this time of the year and like going into November, I start to get very reflective. I like to spend a lot of time in reflection and look at, um, what has this year meant? What were the things that stood out? What do I want more of next year? What do I want less of? What needs to shift? What am I grateful for? All those things. Um, and I take a lot of time, I think, in November and December to really think about those things and then start to really create for the next year. And one of the things that I created for this year was this podcast. I mean, this idea just came from a client. I had literally never thought of doing a podcast. And she said on a conversation, like, why don't you do a podcast? And I just had never, like, the idea had never occurred. And she planted that seed. And so here we are, like at the last quarter of the year, and I've had a podcast every Thursday. So I'm definitely celebrating that. And it's been a journey, and it's been fun, and it's been, I think, one of the things that has happened with like the most ease in my business. And so I'm excited. I don't know what it's going to be, look like next year. Like I'm going to spend some time the end of this year really thinking about that. But it's been awesome to have people like you on and just share and learn and grow and have it impact and touch other people's lives. It's been really cool. So that's for sure one thing. And then a lot of adjustments. Where I had a son going to the Navy and a senior in high school. So life is shifting as we talk. And so there's going to be a lot of reflection in the next couple of months. And yeah. So before we complete, I want you to just share a little bit about the work that you're doing. Who do you work with, and what exactly is the work that you're doing today? And we know it's always evolving.
Yeah, it is always evolving. And I I would say that I really enjoy working with women who really understand that they have this inner critical voice in their head, and they've tried maybe a variety of different things and really just want to quiet that voice. Um, and I utilize a variety of different techniques in my coaching program to help them understand where it comes from and how to lessen it, how to quiet it. And we talk about what are the things that might be bothering them, the things that may have happened that have occurred to boost their self-confidence. It really depends. Every client is different, but I use a foundational program based on HeartMath to really help shift their autonomic nervous system. And it's just really just helping them see that they can be more present, more mindful, and get out of overwhelm. I was in overwhelm for a really long time, and that stress and burnout. So I've been there, I've done that. I've spent a lot of that time, and I have a whole toolbox of techniques that I've utilized that I can help my clients with, and getting more control of that voice so that it doesn't overpower their life and kind of help them find more peace and harmony.
So good. We all need more of that. And you're somebody, Tricia, so Tricia and I have been leading Thrive Thursday together for over a year now. I can't believe it. And
I know.
I've had the joy of really getting to know Tricia, and we finally actually got to meet in person after just seeing each other on Zoom for over a year.
Right.
We are no longer just talking heads on Zoom, which is so exciting. We met for coffee, and that was so great. But you are somebody who really walks your talk and does the work in your own life. And for me, that is super important. That is super important it's just the integrity of that just means a lot to me. So I see that in you. And so I'm going to have one more question, but where can people find out more about what you're doing?
Yeah, they can. So thank you, Carla, for those very thoughtful comments. It's been amazing co-hosting Thrive Thursday with you and getting to know you as well. And I think we just connect on such a great level. So thank you very much. So appreciate all of the kindness that you always extend to everyone, including myself. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. I post fairly frequently, and I'm on Instagram. My website is Soul Heart and Soul SOUL businessadvisor.com. I'm also have the same on Instagram, Soul Business Advisor on Instagram.
Okay, so just as a reminder for everyone listening, we talked about a lot of things, but I think the real core essence of what we wanted to share today was about just inviting celebration into your life and into your day and into the little moments and the little and big things, and also the failures and setbacks. And so what would you like to add to that, Tricia?
Yeah, I think, self-compassion. I think we often are so hard on ourselves. I know a lot of women who are really critical and really super hard on themselves and, have perfectionist tendencies. And if we just take a moment, take a step back and just have some self-compassion for ourselves, right? Just giving ourselves some loving compassion, taking a deeper breath, it could make a difference in 10, 15, 30 seconds of just letting go of that voice, right? So that's the one thing I would add is just self-compassion.
So good. I often will say to my clients, like, release pressure, apply love. And it's so simple, but just, yeah, it just takes a moment. And if we do that a moment today, and then we do it 2 moments tomorrow, and we can grow that muscle. So good.
Yes.
So Tricia, last question. What does doing differently mean for you in your life?
Great question. When I think of doing differently, I think of what can I do to push myself out of my comfort zone? We often, just by nature, right, we get stuck in our comfort zone. And many times we get really stuck doing the same thing over and over, and not pushing ourselves. So to me, it's, what can I do differently? Even just the smallest thing. What's the smallest thing that I can do differently in a moment, or with a colleague, or in a meeting? Or can I exercise, just a little bit differently? To me, it's just really getting uncomfortable and even just the smallest moment.
So beautiful. Thank you so much for being here. We made it all the way to the end with only a small hiccup. And I'm just so grateful for you. I'm so grateful to know you. And thanks for being willing to share some of your time here today.
Yeah, and thanks for the spontaneity of it. I loved that we could just, hop on a call and have a conversation, and really just share our experiences. So thank you for having me.
So great. Have an awesome rest of your day.
All right, you too. Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Differently. I hope it stirred your thinking, and I invite you to take one inspired action from something that stood out to you. If you love listening to this podcast, may I ask you to leave a review in Apple Podcasts. These mean so much to me, and I read every one. They are a great source of fuel for me as I am creating these episodes. If you want to hear more conversations like this, hit follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast app and help me spread the word. If this episode could impact someone you know, please share it and pass it along. Remember, new episodes drop weekly. See you next week.